The bright lights of the council chamber cast strange shadows across Ambassador Park's face as he stood before the assembled aliens. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Council, and the tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Park maintained his composure despite the strangeness of it all. The council members varied wildly in appearance. Some had too many limbs, others too few. Some breathed through gills, others through specialized membranes. Yet they all shared one thing, an air of superiority that made Park's jaw clench. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community," said the lead speaker, a tall being with blue-tinted skin. "Your species has developed quite impressively, considering the parameters of the experiment." Kim, Earth's chief science officer, stiffened beside Park. She tapped a subtle signal on her datapad. Park received her message clearly. Condescension detected. "Experiment?" Park kept his voice even. "What experiment would that be, Speaker?" The alien made a gesture that might have been a smile. "The Protected Species Program. Of course. Your planet has been under observation for approximately 3,000 of your years. We've monitored your development from primitive tool users to your current state of early space exploration. Quite fascinating data collected." Park exchanged glances with Kim and the other members of Earth's first contact team. The revelation confirmed their worst fears. Humans weren't being welcomed as equals. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding," Park said. "Earth is not part of any experiment. We are an independent species making first contact." A ripple of what sounded like laughter moved through the council chamber. The lead speaker tilted his head. "Ambassador Park, you misunderstand. All emerging species are part of the program. It's how we determine readiness for galactic integration. You should be honored. Only 1 in 20 species advances to contact stage." Kim stepped forward. "And the others?" A smaller council member with 4 arms answered. "Resource management is necessary. Species showing dangerous tendencies are gently guided towards self-elimination." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Park felt a chill run down his spine, but kept his expression neutral. "I see," he said carefully. "And who determined these parameters?" "The Founding Five, naturally," said the lead speaker. "The first spacefaring species who established the Council 8 million years ago. Their wisdom guides all Council decisions." Park nodded slowly, processing this information. "And now that we've reached contact stage, what happens next?" "You'll be assigned a mentor species," said the 4-armed alien. "They'll guide your development, ensure you don't expand too quickly, and help integrate human culture with galactic standards." Park noticed how the alien emphasized integrate. It sounded suspiciously like replace. "That's a generous offer," Park said diplomatically. "However, I must inform you that Earth has its own plans for development. We are not your experiment. Humanity will determine its own path." The chamber fell silent. Council members exchanged glances, clearly surprised by this response. The lead speaker leaned forward. "Perhaps you misunderstand, Ambassador. This is not an offer. This is how things are done. All species follow this path." Park smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Then humanity will be the exception." "Impossible," hissed another council member. "Your technology is primitive. Your single planet could be quarantined with a skeleton fleet." Kim stepped forward, activating her datapad. "Before making threats, you might want to review this data." She transmitted files to the Council's central system. The aliens fell silent as they reviewed the information. Earth had been preparing for this moment. While publicly appearing to have, Park nodded. "Take all the time you need. Earth's delegation will await your response. But know this, we come as equals or not at all." As Park and his team left the chamber, Kim whispered, "They're afraid." "Good," Park replied quietly. "Fear might earn us respect." Back on their ship, Park sent an encrypted message to Earth. "First contact established. Council intentions confirmed. Phase 2 authorized." The real negotiations were about to begin. The explosion rocked the entire colony dome, sending dust and debris cascading from the ceiling. Emergency alarms wailed as colonists rushed to seal breaches and evacuate damaged sections. In the command center, Chief Analyst Han stared at her screens with narrowed eyes, her fingers flying across the display. "Casualty report," she demanded, not looking up from her work. 12 injured, no deaths, her assistant reported. "Maintenance level 3 is completely destroyed." Han nodded, but didn't reply. This was the third accident at a human colony this month. First, the power grid failure on Europa, then the atmosphere processor malfunction on Mars, and now this explosion at New Horizon Colony. The pattern was becoming too clear to ignore. Commander Lee entered the command center, his uniform dusty from helping with rescue efforts. His face was grim as he approached Han's station. "What do we have?" he asked quietly. Han gestured to her screen. "Look at these sensor readings. The explosion originated from the central oxygen recycler, but there's no sign of mechanical failure. In fact," she highlighted a section of data, "there's evidence of an external energy signature right before detonation." Lee leaned closer. "Someone triggered it remotely." "Not just someone." Han pulled up another file. "Sensor logs from the previous incidents. The energy signature matches those from Europa and Mars. This wasn't an accident, Commander." "None of them were." Lee's jaw tightened. "You're certain?" "Completely." Han's voice was flat. "Someone is sabotaging our colonies, and they're getting better at making it look like accidents." 2 days later, Lee's Special Operations Team deployed to Ganymede Outpost, Earth's newest mining colony. Instead of announcing their arrival, they went in dark, using scrambled communications and stealth shuttles. For 3 days, they observed, watching the regular operations of the colony without interfering. On the 4th day, they caught them. 3 humanoid aliens attempting to access the colony's water purification system with an unidentified device. When confronted, the aliens triggered suicide implants, but not before Lee's team secured their equipment and ship. Back at Earth Command, Han examined the recovered technology while Lee reported to Admiral Kang. "Council technology," Han confirmed, looking up from her analysis, "specifically from the mentor species assigned to guide us." Lee's face darkened. "They smile at our diplomatic meetings while stabbing us in the back." Han nodded. "The sabotage attempts have been getting progressively more severe. Europa was a warning shot. Mars could have been catastrophic if we hadn't caught it in time. This one on New Horizon," she paused. "If they'd succeeded, we would have lost the entire colony." "Their strategy is clear," Lee said, bringing up a star map. "They're targeting our expansion efforts, trying to slow us down, make colonization seem too dangerous and costly, while maintaining plausible deniability," Han added. "If we accuse them officially, they'll deny everything and claim we're being paranoid." Lee nodded grimly. "Classic shadow war tactics. They're testing our resolve." Over the next month, Earth Command quietly implemented new security protocols across all colonies. Officially, these were called safety upgrades in response to recent accidents. Unofficially, they were defensive measures against Council sabotage. Human ships began traveling in pairs, even civilian vessels. Colony systems received redundant backups and hidden monitoring devices. Most importantly, Lee established the Special Response Division, operatives trained specifically to counter alien infiltration. At diplomatic meetings, human representatives continued to smile and engage in polite discussions about cultural exchange and technological assistance. No accusations were made. No evidence was presented. But behind this peaceful facade, humanity prepared. Factories that officially produced agricultural equipment now had secret production lines for weapons and shield generators. Scientific research ostensibly focused on medical advances quietly explored military applications. "How long until they realize we know?" Han asked Lee one evening, as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports. Lee considered the question. "They suspect, but they're not certain. The Council is used to dealing with newly emerged species that trust them implicitly." "Their mistake," Han said, displaying new designs for colony defense systems. Lee smiled thinly. Yes, they think we're naive children, grateful for their guidance. He looked at the star map showing human expansion plans. They'll learn differently soon enough. Han nodded, her eyes cold. The Shadow War has begun, but when the real war comes, we'll be ready. The emergency alarm jolted Admiral Choi from sleep. She was fully alert in seconds, already moving toward the command center as the voice over the intercom repeated, "Priority 1 alert. All senior staff to command immediately." She arrived to find the command center in controlled chaos. Officers moved with purpose between stations while the main display showed a live feed from humanity's furthest colony, Proxima Centauri V. "Status report," Choi demanded, taking her position at the center. "Proxima colony is under attack," her executive officer replied, voice tight. "Multiple Council warships appeared in system 20 minutes ago and opened fire without warning or declaration." Choi stared at the screen where massive alien vessels hung over the colony, energy weapons cutting through habitation domes and infrastructure. The colony's minimal defensive systems were already overwhelmed. "Get me a direct line to Proxima Control," she ordered. The communications officer shook his head. "We're getting only emergency broadcasts." Main communication hub was among the first targets hit. A grainy video feed appeared on screen. Proxima's colony administrator, face bloodied, surrounded by smoke and screams. "This is Governor Ryu of Proxima Colony. We are under heavy attack by Council forces. They came without warning. Our defenses are failing. Civilian casualties." The transmission broke into static before returning. "Estimate over 3,000 dead already. We need immediate assistance. They're targeting residential sectors. Please help us. This isn't a military operation. It's a massacre." The transmission cut out completely. Silence fell over the command center. Then Admiral Choi's voice, cold as space itself. "Launch Operation Thunderbolt." The room erupted into activity. Operation Thunderbolt. The emergency response plan humanity had hoped never to use. "Message all fleet captains," Choi continued. "This is not a drill. War Plan Alpha. I want every available ship at the jump point in 30 minutes. 6 hours later, the human fleet appeared at the edge of the Proxima system. 48 ships against the Council's 73. On paper, it looked like suicide. The Council vessels were larger, with more powerful weapons and stronger shields. But humanity had been preparing. "All ships, execute Scatter Pattern Delta," Choi ordered from her flagship. "Corvette Groups 1 through 4, commence harassing maneuvers. Cruiser Division, hold position until my mark." The smaller human ships broke formation, separating into seemingly chaotic groups that approached the Council fleet from multiple vectors. The alien vessels began adjusting their formation to counter. "They're responding exactly as predicted," the tactical officer reported. "Their command ship is shifting to coordinate defense." Choi nodded. "Deploy Phantom drones." Hundreds of small unmanned craft launched from the human ships, each broadcasting signals identical to combat vessels. On Council sensors, it would appear as if the human fleet had tripled in size. The alien formation wavered, confused by the conflicting data. "Now," Choi ordered, "Cruiser Division, execute Thunderbolt Strike." The human cruisers, which had been holding back, suddenly accelerated to maximum speed. But instead of engaging the Council ships directly, they launched specialized projectiles. Not explosives, but precision-guided EMP devices designed specifically to disrupt Council shield technology. The devices detonated, creating cascading energy failures across the Council formation. Several alien ships went dark immediately, their systems overloaded. "Phase 2, Choi commanded. "All ships, converge and engage." The scattered human fleet suddenly moved with perfect coordination, concentrating fire on key targets. Without their shields, the Council vessels were far more vulnerable than expected. One by one, the massive alien ships began to fall. In the colony below, Survivors watched in disbelief as debris from destroyed Council warships streaked through the atmosphere like falling stars. 3 hours later, it was over. 17 human ships lost against 49 Council vessels destroyed or disabled. The remaining Council ships retreated in disarray, jumping out of the system. They expected us to submit, Choi said quietly, watching the battlefield cleanup begin. They thought this show of force would terrify us into surrender. Her executive officer nodded. They thought wrong. Send word to Earth, Choi ordered. Proxima secured. Council forces repelled. She paused, looking at the damage reports from the colony. And tell them this was just the beginning. As rescue ships descended to the damaged colony, the truth spread throughout human space. The Council had finally shown its true face, and humanity had responded not with fear, but with fury. The Shadow War was over. The real war had begun. Diplomat Kang moved through the grand halls of the Galactic Council's neutral space station with practiced ease. Though surrounded by alien species of all shapes and sizes, she maintained a face of perfect calm. Inside, her heart raced. This meeting could change the course of the war. Reaching the designated meeting room, she pressed her hand to the scanner. The door slid open to reveal 5 alien representatives seated around a table. "Thank you for coming," Kang said, bowing slightly as she entered. "I understand the risk you take by meeting with me." The tallest alien, a blue-skinned being with 4 arms, spoke first. "The risk is necessary. What happened at Proxima was not approved by the full Council." Kang activated a small device that created a privacy field around the room. "That's precisely why I requested this meeting. My government needs to understand who we're actually fighting." The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, Kang had learned what Earth had suspected. The Council was not united in its aggression toward humanity. The Northern Coalition forced the attack, explained a reptilian representative. They control most of the Council's military assets and acted without proper authorization. Several species opposed the attack, added another alien. But we were overruled. Kang carefully recorded everything. "And now the Council splits," said the blue alien. "Some want peace. Others want your species eliminated. We are in the middle of the greatest Council division in 10,000 years." Back on her ship, Kang immediately transmitted her findings to Earth, encoding the message to avoid Council interception. Several Council members opposed this war. Her report began. "The monolithic enemy we feared doesn't exist." 2 days later, Kang sat in Earth's Strategic Command Center, explaining her findings to military and political leaders. "The Council has functioned as a unified body for millennia," she explained, displaying a diagram of Council politics. "But humanity's resistance has created unprecedented fractures in their alliance." Admiral Choi, hero of Proxima, leaned forward. "Which factions oppose the war?" 7 major species and numerous minor ones," Kang replied. "They control about 30% of Council resources and territory, mostly in these sectors." She highlighted regions on the galactic map. "And those who want us wiped out?" asked the defense minister. "The Northern Coalition, 5 ancient species who consider themselves the rightful rulers of the galaxy. They control about 40% of Council assets, including most of their advanced weaponry." "And the remaining 30%? Someone asked. "Neutral or undecided," Kang said, waiting to see who prevails. The room fell silent as they absorbed this information. "We've been fighting with the assumption that we face a unified enemy," Choi finally said. "This changes everything." Over the next 2 months, humanity executed a 2-pronged strategy. Militarily, they continued defensive operations against Northern Coalition forces. Diplomatically, they opened secret channels to Council moderates. Kang found herself traveling constantly between hidden meeting points, negotiating with alien representatives. Some meetings were productive. Others nearly ended in her capture by Coalition loyalists. After a particularly tense escape from a compromise meeting, she contacted her superiors. We need to formalize these alliances, she urged. Several moderate species are ready to openly support us, but they need guarantees. Earth's leadership agreed. 1 week later, Kang led a delegation to the Vega system, where representatives from 12 council species met with humanity's diplomats. We propose a mutual defense pact, Kang told the assembled aliens. Protection for your worlds against Northern Coalition reprisals, in exchange for technical assistance and intelligence. The negotiations lasted 5 days. When they concluded, Earth had its first official alien allies. News of the alliance spread quickly. More council species began secret communications with Earth, seeking similar arrangements. The Northern Coalition responded with threats against any who aided humans. They're desperate, Kang told Admiral Choi during a strategy session. Their unity was their strength. Now that unity is broken, and their division will be their downfall, Choi replied, studying the latest intelligence reports. Coalition forces were being stretched thin, trying to maintain control over increasingly rebellious council members. 3 months after the Proxima attack, what had begun as humanity fighting alone for survival had transformed into a galactic civil war. The Council's 10,000-year hegemony was crumbling, with Earth as the catalyst. Did they really think we would just lie down and accept destruction? Kang asked one of her alien counterparts during a diplomatic reception. The alien made a gesture equivalent to a smile. The Northern Coalition has ruled so long they forgot what real resistance looks like. They thought all species would submit as others have. Kang gazed out at the stars visible through the station's viewport. Their mistake. Indeed, the alien agreed. And one that may finally free us all. Officer Chu's hands trembled as she sent the encrypted message. Discovery meant certain death, but she had no choice. The Northern Coalition leadership had just left the secure chamber, and what she'd heard chilled her to the bone. Planet killer detected. Trajectory Earth, she typed frantically. Estimated arrival 72 hours. This is not a drill. Hidden among the council moderates for nearly a year, Ju had worked her way into a position as a data analyst. Her alien disguise, created with the help of Earth's new allies, had never failed her. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. The planet killer was the Coalition's most closely guarded secret, a weapon capable of destroying an entire world. Its existence was considered a myth by most of the galaxy. Now it was heading for Earth. As her message transmitted through secure channels, Ju methodically destroyed her communication device and began her extraction plan. Her mission was complete. Whether she escaped or not no longer mattered. The message reached Earth within hours. Defense Director Song was awakened from sleep at 3:17 a.m. By 3:20, she was in the underground command center, surrounded by military and scientific advisors. Verification, she demanded. Multiple sources confirm, her chief of staff replied grimly. Our long-range sensors detected the launch, though they couldn't identify the weapon type. Ju's intelligence matches our data. Song's face revealed nothing as she studied the projected path. Time to impact. 68 hours, 17 minutes. Song nodded once, decisively. Evacuate as many civilians as possible to the Deke shelters, and activate the Omega Protocol. Authorization Song Delta 97. A hush fell over the command center. The Omega Protocol was Earth's most closely guarded secret, a planetary defense system developed in absolute secrecy since first contact with the Council. Director, her chief scientist said quietly, Omega has never been tested at full capacity. We don't know if. We have no choice, Song interrupted. Begin activation sequence. Across Earth and its colonies, emergency alerts sounded. Civilians moved into underground shelters built during the Shadow War years. Military forces deployed to defensive positions. News of the incoming planet killer spread, causing fear but not panic. Humanity had been preparing for this possibility. In space, Earth's allied alien ships moved to intercept the weapon, knowing they would likely be destroyed in the attempt. It was a brave but futile gesture. Allied forces report engagement with coalition escort vessels, reported a communications officer. They're buying us time, but the planet killer continues on course. Song nodded grimly. Begin Omega activation. Around Earth, hidden installations powered up. Orbital platforms that had appeared to be standard communications satellites changed configuration. Deep beneath the oceans, massive generators activated. Coalition forces will detect Omega activating, warned her security chief. Let them, Song replied. Too late to stop it now. As the planet killer entered the solar system, hundreds of coalition warships followed, planning to attack Earth after the weapon's impact. They expected to find a broken, burning world ready for conquest. What they found instead shocked them to stillness. A shimmering energy field began to form around Earth, connecting the orbital platforms in a web of light. The field expanded, growing more solid with each passing minute. Omega shield at 60% capacity, reported the chief engineer. Holding stable. On the bridge of the coalition flagship, the Supreme Commander stared in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. No emerging species has shield technology this advanced. Planet killer approaching optimal range, announced Song's tactical officer. Impact in 17 minutes. Song gave the final order. Omega shield to maximum power. The shield around Earth flared brilliantly, visible from Mars as a blue-white sphere surrounding the planet. Power readings exceeded all predictions. When the planet killer struck, the collision was visible from throughout the solar system. The shield absorbed the massive energy discharge, bending but not breaking. For a moment, Earth seemed to be engulfed in fire. Then the flames cleared. Earth remained untouched. In the command center, exhausted technicians cheered. The impossible had been accomplished. Shield holding at 23%, reported the chief engineer. But we did it. Song allowed herself a small smile. Send message to all coalition vessels. Your weapon failed. Earth stands. You may retreat or face our response. The coalition fleet hesitated, then began jumping away one by one. They had expected Earth's destruction. Instead, they'd witnessed a technological miracle. As reports came in from across the galaxy, one thing became clear. Humanity had changed the balance of power forever. The Northern Coalition's ultimate weapon had failed, and Earth had revealed strength no one had suspected. The galaxy is watching now, Song said quietly. And everything has changed. The massive human warship Retribution dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Galactic Council's home system. Behind it came hundreds more ships, their hulls bearing the scars of countless battles fought across the stars. Admiral Choi stood on the bridge, her face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays showing the Council's defenses. Status report, she ordered, her voice calm despite the historic moment unfolding. Council Defense Fleet is scrambling to form a blockade, reported her tactical officer. Approximately 300 vessels of varying classes. Their planetary shield is activating. Choi nodded. The Council homeworld had never been directly threatened in its 10,000-year history. Its defenses were formidable, but hastily deployed. The coalition leaders had never expected an enemy to reach their sacred capital. Deploy the fleet in Formation Alpha, she commanded. Surround the planet, but hold fire unless fired upon. The human fleet moved with practiced precision, ships spreading out to encircle the planet. Allied vessels from former Council races joined them, taking positions alongside their human counterparts. On the Council homeworld, panic spread through the Grand Council chambers. Emergency alarms blared as the planet's defensive systems activated for the first time in millennia. How did they get past our outer defenses? Demanded a coalition leader, his scales flaring with distress. The humans. They're everywhere, gasped another council member, watching the tactical display as hundreds of ships appeared in perfect formation around their world. They've somehow bypassed our sensor networks. The High Speaker, leader of the Council for 7 centuries, stared at the display in disbelief. Just 3 years ago, Humans had been considered a primitive species barely worth monitoring. Now they commanded the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Open communication with the human flagship, the High Speaker ordered, his voice trembling slightly. Admiral Choi's face appeared on the Council's main screen. Her expression revealed nothing as she studied the assembled alien leaders. "This is Admiral Choi of the United Earth Fleet," she said simply. "Your Northern Coalition has committed crimes against humanity and numerous other species. We are here to end your reign. This is your one chance to surrender." Silence fell across the Council chamber. The Coalition leaders looked to each other in disbelief. Surrender had never been a concept they had applied to themselves. "We cannot possibly," began one Coalition member. The High Speaker raised a hand for silence. "What are your terms, Admiral?" "Unconditional surrender of all Coalition military forces. The Coalition leadership will face trial for war crimes, including the attempted genocide at Proxima and the planet killer attack on Earth. All occupied worlds will be freed." The terms hung in the air like a death sentence. The Coalition leaders began arguing among themselves, some demanding resistance to the end, others calculating the odds of survival. Outside, the human fleet held position, weapons ready but not firing. Council defensive batteries targeted the human ships but did not engage. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. After 3 hours of heated debate, the High Speaker approached the communication screen again. His proud bearing was gone, replaced by the posture of defeat. "We beg for mercy," he transmitted, the words clearly painful. "The Council surrenders to human forces." Within hours, human troops landed at key locations across the Council homeworld. The once mighty Coalition military laid down their weapons without resistance, their will to fight broken by the overwhelming force arrayed against them. In the Provisional Command Center established in the former Council Palace, Admiral Choi met with her senior officers to discuss next steps. "We should dismantle their entire civilization," argued General Rio, still bitter about the Proxima massacre. "They would have shown us no mercy." "Their technological centers should be seized and studied," suggested Science Director Min. "Their knowledge could advance humanity by centuries." "Their worlds should be occupied indefinitely," said another commander. "We can't risk them rebuilding." Choi listened to all arguments without comment. When they finished, she walked to the window overlooking the ancient Council city. Civilian aliens watched the human patrols with fear in their eyes. "We came seeking justice, not vengeance," she said finally. "That distinction will define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come." She turned back to her officers. "Our response must be measured and just. We are not the Coalition. We will not become what we fought against." The decision made in that room would shape the future of 1,000 worlds. As night fell on the Council homeworld, humanity stood at a crossroads. Conquerors with the power to destroy or leaders with the wisdom to rebuild. The choice was theirs to make. The Grand Council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from over 300 species filled the tiered seats, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of galactic life. At the center podium, where for 10,000 years only Council elders had stood, Commander Bot waited as the chamber quieted. She was not an imposing figure by human standards, but her presence commanded attention. The simple black uniform she wore bore only a single insignia, Earth's new emblem of a planet with an olive branch. No weapons were visible, though everyone knew she could summon Earth's fleet with a single word. 3 years ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Humanity made first contact with your Council. We came in peace. She activated a holographic display showing the devastation of Proxima Colony. Burned habitats, bodies in the streets, children's toys scattered among the ruins. You responded with this. Proxima Colony. 3,000 civilian dead. The chamber remained deathly quiet. Many aliens looked away from the images. When that failed, you launched a planet killer against Earth itself. Another image appeared. The massive weapon approaching Earth before being deflected by the Omega shield. You attempted genocide. You have earned wrath. The chamber fell silent, many species bracing for the announcement of punishments. The coalition leaders, seated in a special section under guard, seemed to shrink in their seats. Ba's expression softened slightly, yet humanity chooses a different path. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the assembly. During our campaign, we discovered something far more insidious than simple aggression. She activated another display, this one showing thousands of documents, records, and communications, evidence of corruption spanning centuries. The display highlighted specific sections, records of peaceful species deemed unworthy and targeted for elimination, resource-rich worlds classified as primitive so they could be exploited, technologies suppressed to maintain power imbalances. The Northern Coalition didn't just try to destroy humanity, Ba continued. They've been manipulating galactic development for millennia, determining which species would rise and which would fall, not based on merit, but on their own interests. She moved through the evidence methodically, revealing centuries of deception. Many council members appeared shocked. Others nodded in grim confirmation of suspicions long held. We could destroy the coalition completely, Ba said. Many of my colleagues advocated for exactly that. Earth has the military power to do so. She paused, looking directly at the coalition leaders. But that would make us no better than you. She straightened her shoulders. Humanity proposes not destruction, but reformation. The holographic display changed again, showing a document titled The New Galactic Charter. This charter establishes the true galactic community based on principles of self-determination, mutual defense, and shared prosperity. No species will rule over others. No world will be classified as an experiment. All technological advances will be shared rather than hoarded. As she outlined the charter's key points, reactions varied throughout the chamber. Some species appeared relieved, others skeptical, a few outright hostile. The coalition leaders will face justice for their crimes, Ba continued. But their peoples will not suffer collective punishment. Their worlds will join the new galactic community as equals. One of the coalition representatives rose shakily to his feet. Why show mercy? He asked, genuine confusion in his voice. You have won. You could take everything. Ba considered the question carefully. Because mercy is not weakness. It is the ultimate expression of strength. Anyone can destroy. Creation is the harder path. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various representatives. Humanity fought not just for our survival, but for a better galaxy. We believe that is possible, even with former enemies. Over the following weeks, species after species signed the new Galactic Charter. Some did so eagerly, others reluctantly, but the momentum was unstoppable. Earth's allies were rewarded with positions of influence, while former coalition worlds were integrated under careful supervision. The former council headquarters became the center of the new galactic government, now called the Stellar Confederation. Human diplomatic and scientific teams thread throughout the galaxy, sharing technology and building bridges between formerly isolated species. In the officers' lounge of the Retribution, Admiral Choi and Commander Bai watched a news broadcast showing the 100th world signing the charter. Do you think it will last? Choi asked quietly. Ba smiled. Nothing lasts forever. But we've given the galaxy something it never truly had before. A chance at genuine cooperation rather than domination. And if someone tries to break it, Choi pressed. Ba's expression hardened slightly. Then they'll be reminded that humanity's mercy comes from strength, not weakness. She looked out at the stars. We'll be watching. Always. Across the galaxy, beings who had once feared humans now looked to Earth with cautious hope. A new era had begun, founded not on conquest, but on justice tempered with mercy.